Hello there and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a ranking video, ranking the last handful of palettes that have entered my collection. I am pretty much perpetually on a low or sometimes a no buy, and so it takes a while for me to get enough palettes that are actually worth filming a video to rank them, but today I've got, what is this, 6 different palettes to talk about, so let's get going. I'm going to start with the lowest palette in the ranking, and I do want to say that really none of these palettes are bad, none of them at all. I am very careful about bringing into my collection only things which I think are going to be great, things that I will love the color story, will use the color story, perhaps it fills a gap, and it's a formula that I know and love. Or it's a new brand that comes very highly recommended by people whose eyeshadow preferences I share. So pretty much everything in my collection at this point, with the exception of a couple ColourPop palettes and one from Jaclyn Cosmetics, are really, really great. They're really great. So none of these palettes are anything that I would not recommend. I do think that they're all lovely, beautiful color stories, excellent performance. It mainly comes down to color story and preferences, and that's where we are today. So at the very bottom of the list, I am putting the Search palette from Blend Bunny. This was given to me by a subscriber, and this is a great palette. I believe it's discontinued now because apparently neons are extremely expensive to source right now. So if it's still available on the website, it's going to be linked down below in the description box, along with everything else that's available from this list. This is the Search palette, and it is a really fun palette, honestly. I very much enjoy the way that this palette was put together. Pastels, midtones, deep tones, shimmers, and neons. It's a great range, honestly. There's so much variety, and you're spoiled for choice. The quality is very, very good. If you haven't tried Blend Bunny, I can highly recommend them as a brand. Their formula is fabulous. The reason this is ranking lower is for 2 reasons. First off, it is basically a rainbow palette, although it has fun undertones. This is not a standard Roy G. Biv rainbow. There are different nuances within the shade choices, the undertones of the colors, which does make it pretty fun. But it's still kind of a rainbow palette, right? And secondly, because the shimmers in this palette are not quite as good as the newer formulation of shimmers. So they're good, they're not amazing, and they're not truly exciting as far as the color choices from within the shimmers. The neons are excellent quality. They're so much fun to play with. They're really, really pigmented, and they build quite nicely onto themselves, so you can put down the neon color and then just keep intensifying it. I had to move my camera. I think I was a little bit too close to it before. Sorry if you notice any difference, but I don't have a viewfinder. I'm just looking at my phone and hoping for the best. Before I forget, I did film today's eyeshadow look. I'm not sure if it's live by the time this video is going up, but this is look 4 from my week of Hella. I will link in the description box my week of playlist, and you can just click that playlist and look for week of Hella. It will be the most recent addition to the playlist. So if it's up, you'll see it. If it's not up, it'll come soon. Let's get going with this ranking. Next in my list, I am putting from Adept Cosmetics the La Cienega palette. This one is a nice palette. I do like it a lot. I bought it because I have the Plain Jane from Adept, and this has this beautiful whole row at the bottom of gorgeous, gorgeous shimmers, but then it's also pretty predominantly neutral, honestly, and these are more cool toned neutrals. I have a very colorful eyeshadow collection. I have very few neutrals, so I wanted to find something that would bring in neutral options if that's the vibe I was going for that day, and would do so in good quality. This does that. I've got some lovely neutrals up here, a couple mid, a couple deep, and a couple light tones, and then of course gorgeous shimmers on the bottom, so you can go quite safe, or you can really dress up your look and do something fun. This palette does smell sort of funny, and I don't use it often enough for that smell to dissipate very quickly. So it kind of smells like a factory. It's okay. I don't know if it's part of the formulation, like the actual pigments and the chemicals used to make the powders, or if it's more the packaging itself. It's okay. It's certainly not a reason to not get the palette. It's very, very nice. I don't know if Adept is still selling this, but I like it, and it's a good palette. In spot number 3, I'm going to be placing Juvia's Place. Now, I had tried various palettes from Juvia's Place before, wasn't too impressed by the formula, and I passed them along. But recently, somebody gave me the Garden of Juvia's, and I'm really impressed by this palette. This is their pastel palette, and I have to say that while the mattes are fun to work with, and they're good, they're buildable, blendable, easy, they're good mattes, the shimmers are really what caught my eye, because these shimmers are not at all similar to what I remember from the earlier Juvia's Place palettes that I tried. These are definitely stepped up a couple notches. They kind of remind me of Oden's, which is my favorite brand. They're very, very light, not necessarily in color, but in the way that they shine. They're just a light texture, but they're not topper shades either. They're still a shimmer formula. You can still glide them on smoothly and get good pigment, but they just have such a high level of sparkle. They're really very pretty, and most of these are at least duochromy. They have a little bit of color shift in them. I think they're really pretty and really fun. I get a lot of good looks out of this palette, and it's great to pair with other things if you want to bring in some depth and drama from a different palette, but then have lighter options. As far as shimmers go, my preference is light to mid-tone, so this is a very good palette for that. I hear my baby waking up, but I've only got 3 palettes to go, so I'm going to try to get through this video. Next is from Sydney Grace, and this is one of their collaboration palettes with Temptalia. This is On the Horizon. This is quite new to my collection, and I think it's lovely, so lovely. This is kind of like earthy jewel tones. There are a couple sagey and orangey sorts of shades, and then down here we have the more blue purples, but everything's a little bit softer. There's nothing really, really bright and vibrant. The formula from Sydney Grace is top notch. It is wonderful. I love to play with their mattes. I love to play with their shimmers. They're not going to give you quite the wet effect that many indie brands do, but they're really, really good quality. And I know that this formula will age well because it's not hyper textured. It's just a soft, flattering wash of very sparkly color. The payoff in the shimmers is great. It's just a really great formula, so whatever they do as far as colors, you know they're going to be good quality, so it's a matter of choosing the colors that you like the most. I currently have, en route to me, another palette which I actually bought from Sydney Grace. This was used. Almost everything I buy is used, but I bought something new from their brand, and I'm really excited about it. So back to this palette. This is a great one. It's got some lighter tones, a couple mid, of course, and then the deep shades. And we have the same thing in shimmers. I'll probably almost never use this shimmer over here because, like I said before, I like lighter tone shimmers. But this one's nice if you put down a light shimmer and you have really dark mattes. You can use a darker shimmer to bridge that gap a little bit. Beautiful palette, very fun to play with. In second spot, I have from Cosmic Brushes, the Muse palette. I went back and forth on whether or not I should get this, but I finally decided to do the pre-order because I thought that this would bring into my collection the soft, more neutral, mauvey kinds of tones, rose golds, and quieter shades, but with interesting undertones and with interesting pairings. It's not just a neutral palette. This is a really interesting, neutral-leaning, colorful palette. That's a lot of adjectives, but it's so, so fun. It's my kind of neutral palette. It's neutral with a twist. You know, it's a lot of neutral, so you can go quite quiet or soft or subdued, but it has some pops of color, so you can spice up the look a little bit, or you could ignore the neutrals and just stick with the colors. But even the colors are quieter. Everything's a bit more tamped down, if you know what I mean. The formula is amazing overall. The mattes are great. They work so easily and they work with each other quite nicely. They're easy to blend together. They're easy to build. They're easy to sheer out if you just want to go a little bit simpler. And again, the shimmers are lovely. Some of them are topper shades. Some of them are more like a true shimmer that you just wipe on the lid. It's smooth and creamy. It's a great formula. And honestly, I can't understand how the brand is doing this kind of quality in packaging. Packaging's excellent. It feels nice, it's beautiful, it's sturdy, it's quality. There's a mirror. How are they doing this kind of quality in packaging and formula for the price point? This was $24, and their newest palette, the Delicious Delights, no, their newest palette is Gothic. But the previous one, Delicious Delights, was part of the trio of Muse, Serenity, and then Delicious Delights. So that one was a couple dollars more, but there was an expensive multi-chrome in it. I don't know how they're doing these kinds of palettes for those price points because they're great. They're really, really great. And if you want to treat yourself, I recommend Cosmic Brushes. Just in general, you're going to get a nice palette. And finally, I was a bit torn on whether or not to actually rank this palette because this one comes with a lot of happy memories. This is the Christmas Eve palette from Oden's Eye, their 2022 Christmas release. You guys know that they did the Christmas Eve and the Merry Christmas palettes. I bought Merry Christmas because I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I thought if I can just get one, which one is a little bit more unique and brings something extra to my collection. So I went with Merry Christmas. But a friend of mine gave me her Christmas Eve palette, and I'm so happy to have the two sisters together. This palette is so beautiful, and like I said before, Oden's Eye is my favorite brand. I just love their color stories, their formula, their packaging, everything's so beautifully done. Here is what the palette looks like on the inside. if you're unaware, of course it's beautiful, and it is the cool toned counterpart to the Merry Christmas. This is kind of a blue-purple color story. They bring in the beautiful silvers, they bring in some yellowy, grungy tones over here. There's lightness, there's depth. You know the drill. The formula is amazing. The packaging is amazing. It is just a joy to hold and work with. And the results that you get all said and done are fabulous as well. So I feel a bit odd ranking this because it was given to me, because I wanted it for so long, because it was such a kind gift from a friend. But realistically, it is a new palette in my collection, and that's what today's video is about. So I'm ranking this at number 1 because it's just great. Everything about it is great. If this one weren't in my collection, then Muse would have been number 1 in today's video. And there you have it. That is my ranking of the most recent 6 palettes in my collection. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Do check below in the description box. I have a whole ranking collection sort of playlist on my channel. All sorts of videos like this. Lots and lots of ranking videos. If you like this video, you probably like a lot of the ones that are in there. I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing before you go in case you like this content and you want to see more. I do upload several videos a week. Thank you so much for being with me here today, and I will see you guys again in my next video. Bye!